Just thoughts on the first couple days of practice this week. Energy good, bad? What have you kind of felt?
No, I felt we've had a great week of preparation. I think it started Monday, coming out here with the extra day, coming out here and really attacking it. I thought these last 2 days were very physical. I told them just after the break they should be a little bit drained. We got 58 hours from tomorrow morning's practice to game day. Obviously 8 p.m. Mountain. So I think we'll be ready to go, and we need to peak come Saturday night.
I think it was last week, 2 weeks ago, kind of asked you about some of the freshmen standing out. You mentioned Malachi Rice. Who else kind of on scout team, maybe guys that aren't necessarily seeing the field right now, have you really seen kind of come to life?
I think Kamani Jackson continues to get better and better. I think he's going to be a guy that's going to be able to play early in his career. Hunter Haynes, another one in that defensive secondary that continues to give the offense problems. Kyson Thomas, guy, walk-on kid right there from Moses Lake, has done an amazing job just in the receiver realm, and I think offensive line-wise, it'd still be Xavier Thorpe. I think he's showing some really, really good positive things. Once we get the size, the weight, and strength on him, I think he's going to be ready to compete next year.
So as you're at the 4-game mark, and I think probably fair to say Wayshawn will be playing beyond that. I know Jalen Edmond also at 4 games. I assume he'll be going beyond that as well.
Yeah, I think with those are all kind of private conversations that we've had. We're going to do what's best for the team to make sure that we're ready, and those guys play really important roles.
Definitely butchered this question on Monday, so I'll do a redo. Just what was your first impression of Washington State football, whether it was watching the Rose Bowls or reading about them? What do you remember? What was your first impression, whether that was in high school or whatnot?
I didn't know too much about Washington State, if I'm just being completely honest. I was kind of called and given this or, talked about this opportunity, and that's when I started doing some research. I always knew it was Wazoo. I always knew they threw the ball. I think obviously I started gaining some attention to it when Coach Leach and game day, and obviously playing them with Gardner Minshew, you kind of knew, and then you followed them throughout the season. So it's just more recent history, but I know it's been a difficult place to win at times. But when you do it right, and it's really rewarding.
Yeah. And then I just want to ask you about a comment you said last week on John Canzano's podcast. You said, if I'm being honest, I don't think the other coaches want to see us climbing that pole or on that pole. What did you mean by that? What was that about?
I just think it's one of those things right now that, we're kind of in this flux. Obviously we're building the conference right now. I think that's obviously news. But without a conference, there's only 7 at-large bids. And those bids, everyone's at a war for those things. So the better we do, hopefully the more opportunity is created.
And then you talk about just kind of the culture of this team. And, we talked about, why this team is prepared to be different than it was last year. Who have really been those individuals who've stepped up, particularly this week, to bring that message?
I think it always starts with the quarterback. This guy has carried the ball I don't know how many times. We've asked him to do everything. He's been reckless with his body. He's thrown it all out there. So I think when the leader of your team does that, it's just inspiring to everybody else. Like, I got bumps and bruises, but who am I to complain? Look at this guy and what he's doing. So I think it starts with John, but Nussi brings a great toughness aspect to our team. I think Stephen Hall is ultra consistent. KT has been great. And then just having Lely back is a big advantage just for the uplift of the mentality of our team. So, we really challenged the offensive line off last week's tape, and those guys need to respond this week with a really good game.
With J&T at Boise State, in terms of missed tackles, some of the most, in the country, what makes them different from other backs you face, just, in that way?
Well, I think it's a combination of speed and power. I think anytime you get that compact running back, those have been the hardest guys to handle, and he can hit the big one. He's got a great stiff arm. He spin moves. He's patient but explosive. It's just a combination. We've seen a lot of really good backs, but he's almost at the top of the list right there.
How does that affect their passing game in terms of just trying to keep your hand, or kind of, your pulse on both of those things?
Well, you can't just, you go into the game, you can't just say, we're going to stop everything. You obviously got to go out there and stop the run. I don't think that's any big secret. But they have explosive playmakers on the edge. 9 has really emerged as a guy that can, transfer kid, that can go take the top off, and 81's been really, really good, and 85 is a sneaky pass game guy and can do it all at tight end, so it opens up a lot of space for them. We got to load the box. We got to go more man. There's just a lot of things that you have to do, but you got to pick and choose. We got to be artful on, how aggressive we are and when we expose those corners, and we feel really good with our corner production, through the first 4 games.
Yeah, what have you noticed about their defense as well?
Just aggressive. I've always kind of watched them from afar just a little bit because a little bit of 4-down structure. I know Jeff was there for a while. Cal Kreiner was there, when they first kind of started installing this defense. It's a little bit more 4-down, but a little bit more aggressive when than when Coach Danielson called it. So I think every play caller has their own identity, even though they're doing very similar things. I think they're a little aggressive in different situations than what they've been in the past, but physical up front. I mean, these two edges, 91 and 5, are just really impressive players. I think they're really stout in the interior, and the backers play ultra downhill. So they'll package you. They'll do a bunch of different things. I anticipate just like anyone else. 3 down, drop 8, pressure, aggressive. Then on 3rd down, they want to dictate the action. So I think they've done a really good job, and we gotta protect John and then be able to make some plays in space.
UW and San Jose State obviously had the personnel to really exploit the deep passing game. What do you think your secondary learned from facing opponents like that?
Well, I mean, Texas Tech is in the same. I mean, I think we did really good against them. It's just still the communication aspect of it. When we're on target, we know who we're defending, and we've been really, really good. We'll need Capenna to continue to be the playmaker that he can be and take those slot responsibilities on. So it's just going to be a physical game. When these big bodies are receivers, you got to get into them, right? You really got to get into their body and kind of slow them down before they get going. So, because once it's a jump ball scenario, they obviously have an edge with some height.
I want to ask specifically about Boogie, kind of playing that 3 safety role, obviously getting a lot of snaps. Does it kind of feel like to you he's almost kind of where, in some ways, Jaden was a couple years ago when he was kind of rotating in with Sam and Jay Lee at that point?
Yeah, I mean, I've coached this defense a long time, and I've coached the safeties. To be able to do both, it takes some special mental ability to be able to process that, and he's done that. We've asked him to do a whole bunch of different things. His role continues to grow, and I think that's great to see because we know he's loaded with potential. So he's had a great week of practice. We're still using him in a dual role, and we'll need him kind of throughout the season to be able to do that.